Morning, welcome to Thinking is Contagious. Let's jump right into this. I'm going to start with the Breonna Taylor, which has been taking up a lot of time. Grand jury, United States judicial system, a grand jury was convened in Kentucky. They heard the evidence, they heard from witnesses who corroborated that the police did announce that they were police. Witnesses that accounted for everything that occurred, and that grand jury came back with a verdict that did not involve murder. That came back with a verdict of inappropriate behavior by firing a gun, by one of the police officers firing a gun into an adjacent apartment. And the very erudite and very eloquent speaker, the Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, unequivocally said that the grand jury investigation and their investigation of the incident that led to the unfortunate death of Miss Taylor warranted police aggression, the police action that was taken. The fact is that it was the media has reported so many lies to you about that it was a no-knock warrant. False. That is not true. Announced that the police did not announce themselves. Again, as the witnesses said, the police did announce themselves. That Taylor was just an innocent bystander. No, Taylor was on the warrant. And there was credible evidence to put her on the warrant based on the fact that that evidence indicated that she was part of her boyfriend's criminal drug activity. And let's not forget the trigger to all of this, no pun intended, but the trigger to all of this. A police officer was shot by her boyfriend. If her boyfriend does not start shooting, she's probably alive today. Breonna Taylor was a victim of the culture that she involved herself in. The police acted appropriately, other than the irresponsible discharging of the weapon into an adjoining apartment, which should have never happened. The rest of it, warranted. There is a judicial system. There is a system that's set up in this country for hundreds of years. And you have seen that because the left is not satisfied with the result of that judicial system, you have seen that they have gone out into the streets, rioted, burned, looted, pillaged. A police officer was shot in Kentucky last night. And this is warranted, and this is deemed to be appropriate behavior. They're all criminals for their reaction. You work within a system for reform. Those people should be, the people who have taken place in the violence that occurred, the shooting of police officers, both Breonna Taylor's boyfriend shooting of the police officer and the shooting of the police officer last night are far worse offenses than what the police did on the night of the raid. That, and then on top of that, you have organizations, you have corporations. The Hearst Corporation, okay, the Hearst Corporation is started an effort to provide funds for the rioters to get them bailed out and to help them get a legal representation in Kentucky. Corporate America funding this anarchy. This is a disgrace, okay? It's an absolute disgrace. And I've got people on my program who are responding and making this Breonna Taylor thing seem like she was murdered by the police in cold blood. let me tell you something. Read the facts. She would be alive today if it wasn't for the actions of her boyfriend. That's more. Can I tell you that 100%? No, but I'm pretty sure. And I think anyone who thinks and has not received the vaccine, the liberal vaccine, to prevent the spread of thinking, anyone who thinks and analyzes and uses their common sense and trusts their gut would realize that she would be alive today if it wasn't for her boyfriend. And that is something that the left can try to occult and hide and aim in a different direction. Sorry, it's too logical. It's not going to happen. Okay, I want to talk about another topic that's really absurd. I saw Adam Schiff on Rachel Apoplectic Madoff show saying that anyone in the Trump administration, it's gotten to the point now, based on his refusal to state that he will peacefully allow a transition of power when he loses the election. They're saying that he's going to lose the election, which he won't. But Rachel Maddow makes it a fact that he said that he wouldn't. That's a lie. He said, let's see. Let's see what the results are. And he's saying, let's see, because of the actions of the left. First of all, let's remember where all this started, okay? As far as peaceful transition. Hillary Clinton, a month and a half ago, said, when asked if Biden loses, should he concede the election? Absolutely not, she said. There you go. Where did all this start? Peaceful transition of power. She's saying he shouldn't concede the election. Adam Schiff on the Rachel Maddow show saying anyone in his administration should resign now while they have a chance due to his actions. The left is desperate. They are absolutely desperate. They don't know what to do with themselves next. There is no doubt that voter fraud is an issue. Okay? If these votes, these mail-in votes, had a watermark or a stamp or something that precluded them from being replicated, you would see that it would limit the probability. But nonetheless, this claim that that voter fraud with mail-in votes is no different than with regular voting is an absolute lie. And there's study after study after study. Okay, the Federal Election Assistance Commission has a study that between 2000, and I'm reading off of the paper, that's why I'm going to be looking down a little bit. 2012 and 2018, 28 million mail-in ballots are unaccounted for. 28 million in that 6-7 year span. The Public Interest Legal Foundation, while there is no evidence missing ballots were used fraudulently, the volume of votes missing, the 28 million, is so large that it raises serious doubts about the ballot's security. Okay? If the intent was that there be no fraud, to protect against fraud was really a upfront mandate, and you really were hell-bent on the mail-in ballot, why doesn't it have a watermark? Why doesn't it have a stamp that cannot be duplicated? Very simple. You still get your mail-in, put a safeguard in. But no, they don't want the safeguard. And I guess you know why the safeguard is not wanted. The New York Times, the New York Post had an article in August about a Democratic operative who came in anonymously as a whistleblower, saying how he was involved in countless elections in New Jersey in which he orchestrated, perpetrated, and helped bring forth fraud in all the votes through the mail-in ballot process. Okay? In 2016, when we reflect on this 28 million votes that were unaccounted for. In 2016, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 2.8 million votes over Donald Trump. 6 million votes, mail-in ballots, were never counted. 6 million were never counted. Okay, that could have cut the narrative of who won the popular vote, quite thrown it out the window. Okay. New York Times 2012 study. A New York Times, definitely not a fan of the conservatives. The New York Times said, quote, voter fraud involving mail-in ballot is vastly more prevalent than in-person voting. It's common sense. Of course it is. Of course it is. You can't even argue that. Okay? The Wall Street Journal, voter exploitation in Hispanic communities in Texas, mail-in ballots have spawned a mini industry, a cottage industry of consultants who get out the absentee vote, sometimes using questionable techniques. Anyone who says, these liberals who tell you that there's no more incidents of fraud in mail-in votes than in-person voting, is insulting your intelligence. People, open your eyes. How can you believe any of this? Is mail-in voting 100% fraud? Of course not. Is it 80% fraudulent? Of course not. But you know what? If it's 1% fraudulent, it could sway an election. We need to avoid it. It would be very simple. Like I said, the watermarks, why aren't they there? Because the agenda, the narrative is not to prevent fraud. The narrative is to have the vehicle of fraud in there so you can control the election. And that makes sense if you think about it, because the cure for it is very simple. Very simple. How to safeguard a ballot. But they choose not to. Final thought. Isn't it ironic that the Democrats, and really study this, and the liberals are up in arms about Trump not willing to concede a peaceful transfer of power, when the Democrats and the liberals are condoning the violent, vandalizing, looting, and pillaging that is going on in our cities under the guise of peaceful protest. Peaceful transfer of power, peaceful protests in the streets. What is really peaceful? The liberals know, they know full well that they have lost this election, that they have overplayed their hand, that the Trojan horse of Joe Biden has been left outside the gate. And in that horse, the AOCs of the world, the Elizabeth Warren, the Bernie Sanders, the far left agenda that they were hoping to infiltrate into this country has also been left outside. And it's not going to be accepted. I see on the reactions to my programs the desperation of the liberals as to what's going on, and the finger pointing and the blaming, because they know that they have no grounds to defend their position at this point. What Donald Trump said about the peaceful transition, he said, let's see. Absolutely, because you know what? He is speaking the truth, and he's speaking from the heart, and he's speaking what we would all do to defend our interests if our rights had been violated. The same way that these protesters are protesting for their rights, Donald Trump is protesting for his rights, letting it be known that he will not be taken advantage of when he sees a corruption that's occurring with the ballot system. And because he is honest, and because he is open-minded, and because he is willing to say what is not politically correct, which is, you're not going to take advantage of me. I will fight you if you cheat. That is not deemed acceptable by the left. Well, guess what? It is fully acceptable. It's what we need in a leader. It's what we need in a president. It's what you need to vote for. Someone who's got the balls to stand up to injustice. The same thing the protesters are claiming that they're doing is what Donald Trump is doing for you, for America. Standing up for the rights of the American voter. Standing up for the rights of America. The integrity and honesty of the American people. You will not cheat us, he is saying. And if you try, I'm not telling you that you're going to have your way. I will fight you, and I will make sure. Remember, the election's results were first put in question by Hillary Clinton. All Donald Trump is saying is, I will review what happens, and based on how it goes down, I will follow up with my actions. That's the leader we need. That's the man we need in the White House. That's the man that you need to vote for. And liberals, you're on fire. You know why? Because you know your ship has sunk.